Hello. Tonight we're travelling to a world that is often pictured with a kind of rugged, simple dignity. We're going to the heart of the medieval village, to the place of fire, of sweat, and of the ringing sound of the hammer on the anvil. We're going to find out what it was really like to be a medieval blacksmith. The image is a powerful one. The mighty, barrel-chested smith, his brow noble, his arms like the branches of an oak tree, a respected and essential pillar of his community. But the reality of this life was not a heroic poem. It was a daily, grinding battle against stubborn materials, against crippling heat, and against a world that demanded everything from your body and offered very little in return. Before we fire the forge, I want to express my sincere gratitude for your joining me here. This quiet corner of the world is built by this community. If you find value in these journeys, a simple like or subscribe is a deeply appreciated gesture. And as we gather from our different time zones, a comment with your city is a welcome reminder of the reach of our shared curiosity. Now, let the soft comforts of your modern world embrace you. Settle in. We are about to step into a place of deafening noise and searing heat to understand the true and often brutal price of iron. Your day does not begin with the gentle light of dawn. It begins in the cold, damp, pre-dawn blackness with a sound. It is the sound of your own body, groaning in protest as you force yourself to sit up. You are a man in your 30s, but your body feels ancient. A deep, grinding ache has settled permanently in your lower back. Your knuckles are swollen and stiff, refusing to bend properly until you have worked them for an hour. Your ears are filled with a faint, high-pitched ringing, a ghost of 1,000 days of hammering that never truly leaves you. This is the first and most intimate truth of your life. The work is devouring your body, piece by painful piece. You are not in a comfortable bed. You sleep on a simple straw-stuffed pallet in a small, timber-framed house that is attached directly to your workshop, the smithy. The air is never free of the smell of your trade. It is a sharp, metallic, and slightly sour scent of old coal smoke, of stale sweat, and of the iron dust that has settled, like a fine grey powder, on every surface of your life. There is no quiet morning routine, there is only the forge. It is the hungry, demanding heart of your world, and it must be fed before all else. You stumble into the smithy. It is not the grand, open-air workshop of fantasy. It is a dark, cramped, and dangerously cluttered cave. The floor is packed earth, uneven and treacherous in the dim light. The walls are blackened with the soot of 1,000 fires. The single, large hearth, the forge itself, is a great, beast-like mouth of stone and brick. Your first task is to bring it to life. You do not flick a switch. You shovel out the ash and plinker from yesterday's fire with your bare, calloused hands. You carefully arrange the new fuel, not clean, efficient coke, but lumpy, inconsistent charcoal that you, or an apprentice, have had to laboriously burn from local wood. And then you begin the long, exhausting work of the bellows. It is a massive, two-handled leather and wood contraption. You pull and you push, the great leather lungs wheezing and groaning, forcing a stream of air into the heart of the forge. Whoosh, hiss, whoosh, hiss. It is a monotonous and surprisingly strenuous rhythm. Your shoulders and back, already aching, begin to burn with the effort. Slowly, a small, sullen, red glow appears in the heart of the charcoal. You pump harder, faster. The glow brightens, from red to a brilliant, angry orange. The forge is awake. It is hungry, and now it must be fed all day long. Your breakfast is a piece of hard black bread and a mug of weak ale, eaten standing by the growing heat of the fire. You are already sweating, and the real work of the day has not even begun. Your first client arrives with the first light of the sun. It is not the local lord commissioning a magnificent new sword. It is a peasant farmer, his face a mask of weary anxiety. In his hand he carries the broken iron tip of his ploughshare. It has struck a rock in the field, and it has snapped. This is the reality of your work. You are not an artist, a creator of beautiful, heroic things. You are a repairman. You are the village mechanic. 90% of your work is the dull, repetitive, and absolutely essential task of mending the broken tools of a hard-working and very poor agricultural community. The farmer cannot pay you in coin. He has none. He will pay you in kind. A small bag of grain, a few eggs, a promise of a share of his crop at harvest time. Your life is a constant and complex negotiation of barter and credit. You are as tied to the success or failure of the harvest as the farmer himself. You take the broken ploughshare. You do not just throw it into the fire. Iron is a precious and expensive commodity. You will not make a new one. You will repair this one. This requires a difficult and highly skilled process called forge welding. You place the two broken pieces into the heart of the forge, burying them in the glowing charcoal. You return to the bellows, pumping furiously, your eyes fixed on the color of the metal. You are looking for a specific and fleeting color. A brilliant, sparkling, almost white-hot incandescence. This is the welding heat, a temperature of over 2000 degrees Fahrenheit. Too little heat and the metal will not join. Too much and you will burn the iron, ruining it, turning it into a useless, crumbly slag. Your entire craft is based on this intuitive and deeply personal understanding of the language of color and heat. As the metal heats, the noise begins. You take a heavy 4-pound hammer and you begin to shape a piece of scrap iron that will become the patch. The sound is not the clean, ringing ping of a Hollywood movie. It is a deafening, bone-jarring and percussive clang. Every strike of the hammer on the anvil sends a shockwave through your hand, up your arm and into your teeth. The noise is so loud that it is a physical force, a wall of sound that makes conversation impossible and thought a struggle. This is the second and most insidious reason you would not last a day. Your modern ears, accustomed to a world of controlled decibels, would be in a state of constant and painful shock. The relentless concussive force of the hammering day after day, year after year, will slowly and surely destroy your hearing. Most old blacksmiths are profoundly deaf, living in a world of muffled silence. Their own ears are final and tragic sacrifice to their trade. You pull the two pieces of the ploughshare from the fire at the perfect sparkling moment. You lay them on the anvil, overlapping the broken ends. You must now work with a speed and a precision that is breathtaking. You have only a few precious seconds before the metal cools and the welding becomes impossible. You shout a command, a single, guttural bark to your apprentice, who might be your own young son. He stands ready with a second, heavier sledgehammer, and the duet begins. You strike with your smaller hammer, a quick, light tap-tang, to show him exactly where to hit. And he brings the great sledge down with all his strength. Clang, tang, clang, tang. It is a violent and perfectly synchronized dance of fire and metal and percussive sound. Sparks fly in every direction, a shower of tiny burning stars. One lands on your bare forearm, and you feel the searing, familiar pain of a small burn. You do not flinch. Your arms are a constellation of such small white scars. They are the punctuation marks in the long and painful story of your working life. Under the force of the hammers, the two pieces of white-hot iron begin to merge. Their surfaces liquefy, and they fuse, becoming a single, solid piece. The forge weld is a success, but the work is not done. The repaired section is rough and weak. It must be refined. You place the ploughshare back in the fire, and you begin the long and equally noisy process of hammering, of shaping, of drawing out the metal, until the repair is as strong or stronger than the original. It is hot, it is loud, it is dangerous, and it is just the first job of a long and grueling day. A day that will be filled with the sharpening of scythes, the reshoeing of a stubborn mule, and the endless and most tedious of all your tasks, the making of nails. Hundreds and hundreds of nails, each one hammered out by hand, a task of such mind-numbing repetition that it becomes a form of a waking and deeply unpleasant dream. You have been awake for 4 hours. You are already covered in sweat, soot, and the fine grey dust of the forge. Your ears are ringing. Your back is aching, and you have another 10 or 12 hours of this to look forward to before you can finally collapse onto your straw pallet and begin the whole agonizing process again. This is not a life of heroic creation. It is a life sentence of hard and unrelenting labor. The relentless physical labor is the most obvious hardship of your life, but it is not the most dangerous. The smithy is a place of 1,000 hidden and often life-altering threats. Every single day you're engaged in a quiet and deeply personal dance with a series of mortal dangers. The fire, your greatest ally, is also a constant and unpredictable enemy. It is not a controlled, gas-fed flame. It is a living, breathing, and often volatile creature of charcoal and air. A sudden, unexpected gust of wind from the open doorway can send a great, whooshing cloud of superheated gas and burning embers directly into your face. You have learned, through painful experience, to work with your body angled away to anticipate the shifting currents of the air. But still, the small, searing burns on your face and hands are a constant reminder of the fire's capricious nature, and there is the ever-present and much greater risk of a catastrophic fire. A single, stray spark, landing in a pile of dry charcoal dust or a nearby stack of wood could, in a matter of minutes, turn your entire timber-framed workshop and your adjoining home into a raging inferno. You, your family, your tools, your entire livelihood, all of it could be reduced to a pile of smoking ash in the time it takes for the village to raise a bucket brigade. And then there is the metal itself. You are working with tons of raw, unforgiving material. A slip of the tongs, a moment of inattention, and a white-hot 20-pound bar of iron can fall on your foot, crushing the bones and searing the flesh in a single, agonizing instant. A small, almost invisible fissure in a piece of iron, a flaw from its original smelting, can cause it to shatter explosively under the force of the hammer, sending a spray of red-hot, razor-sharp shrapnel across the workshop. This is the source of many a blacksmith's lost eye. But the most insidious dangers are the ones you cannot see. The air in your smithy is a toxic soup. You are breathing, every hour of every day, a fine aerosolized mist of coal smoke, of vaporized metals, and of the toxic fumes released by the flux you use for forge welding. A mixture that often contains borax and other, more mysterious and more dangerous chemicals. And to work with lead, to fashion the cames for a church's stained glass window, or to cast the simple leaden weights for a merchant's scale, is to slowly and unknowingly poison yourself, to absorb the heavy metal into your bones, leading to a slow and inexorable decline of your mind and your body. You would not last a day. Your modern mind, which is acutely and perhaps even excessively aware of the concepts of workplace safety, of carcinogens, of long-term health risks, would be in a constant state of high alert. You would be paralyzed by a litany of dangers that the medieval blacksmith simply accepts as the unavoidable cost of his trade. He does not know what a carcinogen is. He only knows that old smiths often die with a deep and persistent cough. It is simply the way of the world. Your social status is as complex and as full of contradictions as your workshop is full of dangers. You are, on the one hand, one of the most important and respected craftsmen in the village. You are a master of a difficult and almost magical art. You are the man who can take a lump of dead, black and useless rock, the iron ore, and, through the secret knowledge of the fire and the hammer, you can transform it into the tools that make the entire agricultural world function. The plowshare that breaks the earth, the scythe that harvests the grain, the axe that fells the trees, the nails that hold the houses together, all of these are born in the fire of your forge and on the scarred and patient surface of your anvil. The farmer, the carpenter, the mason, they all depend on you. The local lord depends on you to shoe his war horses and to repair the chainmail of his men-at-arms. You are the indispensable technological heart of your small and isolated community. But this respect is mingled with a deep and almost primal fear. You are a man who works with fire. You are a man who has mastered a seemingly magical and transformative art. Your work is loud and violent, and it happens in a dark, cave-like space that is filled with smoke and the roar of the bellows. To the simple and superstitious mind of the medieval peasant, your work is not entirely of this world. They will come to you, not just for tools, but for charms. They will ask you to quench a newly forged knife, not in your water trough, but in a bucket of sacred well water, believing that this will imbue the blade with a special power. They will bring you a sick horse, not just to be re-shod, but for you to whisper a secret and magical blacksmith's charm to drive out the evil spirits that are causing the illness. You are both a craftsman and a cunning man, a technician and a sorcerer, and this is a dangerous line to walk. If the harvest is good, your well-made plowshares are a sign of your skill. If the harvest fails, your plowshares might be seen as having a curse upon them. If a sick horse recovers, your charm was powerful. If it dies, your magic may have been of a darker and more malevolent kind. You are a lightning rod for the community's hopes and for its fears. And in a world where a bad harvest or a sick animal can mean the difference between life and starvation, those fears can be a powerful and deadly force. You are not an independent artist, free to create what you wish. You are a small businessman, and your business is a deeply precarious one. Your primary raw material, the iron, must be purchased, either as raw unrefined bloom from a local smelter, or as finished and expensive bars of tradable iron that have been transported at great cost from the larger industrial centres of the region. Your income is almost entirely dependent on the health of the local agricultural economy. In a good year, after a bountiful harvest, the farmers will have a small surplus. They will bring you their old, worn-out tools and ask you to forge new ones. They will have the money to pay for new hinges for their doors, for new iron rims for their cartwheels. But in a bad year, after a drought or a flood, the entire village economy collapses. The farmers have no surplus, they have no money, and they will try to make their old and broken tools last for another season. Your income dries up, but your own costs, the price of charcoal, the price of iron, the taxes you must pay to the local lord, do not. A single bad harvest can push you and your family to the very brink of starvation. You are a vital part of the community, but you are also a prisoner of its economic fortunes, a man whose own personal survival is tied with a chain of iron to the unpredictable and often cruel whims of the weather. The daily, grinding reality of your work is one of repetitive repair and the mass production of simple, functional objects. But to reduce the blacksmith's life to this alone is to miss the subtle and deeply sophisticated artistry that underpins the entire craft. You are not just a brute who heats and hits metal. You are a scientist, an engineer, and an artist all rolled into one. Your workshop is a laboratory, and your mind is a library of a deep and almost entirely unwritten kind of knowledge. Consider the material itself. Iron is not a uniform, predictable substance in your world. The bars of bloomery iron you purchase are riddled with inconsistencies. Some are cold short, brittle when worked cold due to an excess of phosphorus. Some are hot short, crumbling under the hammer at high temperatures due to sulfur impurities. There are no chemical assay reports, no industrial quality control. There is only you. Your first task with any new bar of iron is to diagnose it. You must read its inner character. You do this not with a scientific instrument, but with your entire and highly trained sensory apparatus. You heat the end of the bar in the forge, and you watch it. You watch the way it changes colour, the way the sparks fly from it as it heats. A bright, almost explosive shower of sparks tells you the iron is high in carbon, making it hard but brittle. A duller, redder spark tells you it is a softer, more malleable iron. You then bring the hot iron to the anvil and you listen. You listen to the sound the hammer makes as it strikes. A high ringing sound tells you the iron is dense and well refined. A dull thudding sound tells you it is filled with slag and impurities that must be worked out. You feel the way the metal moves under your hammer, the way it resists, the way it yields. This is a deep and almost intimate conversation between the craftsman and his material. You are not imposing your will upon a dead, inert substance. You are in a dialogue with a living and often temperamental partner. You are learning its strengths, its weaknesses, its hidden potential. And this is another and more subtle reason you would not survive. You are a creature of a world of standardized and predictable materials. You expect your wood to be straight, your steel to be of a uniform grade, your plastic to have consistent properties. You have been insulated from the raw, chaotic, and deeply inconsistent reality of the natural world. To be a medieval blacksmith would be to be plunged into a world of constant and often frustrating material improvisation. You would not have the patience, the intuitive feel, the deep and almost cellular knowledge that is required to read the secret language of the iron. And then there is the heat. The mastery of the fire is the very heart of your art. You are not just making something hot. You are performing a complex and delicate form of thermal alchemy. You know that to make a good, strong axe head, you cannot use a single kind of iron. You must create a laminate. You will take a piece of the soft, tough, and low-carbon iron, the kind that will bend but not break, and you will use this for the body of the axe head. But for the cutting edge, you need something different. You need steel. Steel, in your world, is not a common industrial product. It is a rare and almost magical substance. You must make it yourself in small, precious quantities. You will take a piece of the soft iron and you will pack it in a clay crucible with a source of carbon, perhaps powdered charcoal from a special dense wood, or even scraps of leather and bone. You will seal the crucible and you will bury it in the heart of your forge, keeping it at a precise and very high temperature for many hours. It is a slow and almost mystical process of infusion. The carbon will slowly and patiently migrate into the iron, transforming it, making it harder, stronger, and capable of holding a razor's edge. You will then take this precious and newly made piece of steel, and you will weld it into the cutting edge of the soft iron axe body. This is a work of incredible skill. It requires a perfect control of the heat, a perfect timing of the hammer blows. The result, if you are successful, is a tool of profound and beautiful utility. It is a tool that is both tough and hard, a tool that will not shatter on impact, and a tool that can be honed to a wicked sharpness. It is a perfect and harmonious marriage of two different and opposing material natures. And then comes the final and most magical act of all, the hardening. You will heat the finished axe head to another precise temperature, watching the color, looking for the perfect cherry red glow. And then you will plunge it into your slack tub, the great water-filled trough that sits beside your forge. The sound is a violent, explosive hiss, a scream of steam and thermal shock. The water erupts in a furious boil, and in that single dramatic instant, the very inner structure of the steel is transformed. The crystal lattice of the metal is frozen into a new and incredibly hard state known as martensite. The soft, workable steel has become as hard and as brittle as glass. It is now too hard, it is too brittle. An axe head in this state would shatter on the first blow. And so you must perform the final and most delicate of all your operations. You must temper it. You carefully polish a section of the hardened edge to reveal the bright, clean metal beneath. And then you gently and very carefully reheat it, far from the main heat of the fire. And you watch. You watch the polished surface for the subtle and fleeting run of the tempering colours. A pale straw yellow, which is perfect for a razor, a deep golden yellow, which is perfect for a chisel, a rich peacock blue, and then a soft dove grey. You are looking for a specific brownish purple, the perfect temper for an axe, a state that is both hard enough to hold an edge and tough enough to withstand the shock of impact. At the very instant that this perfect and fleeting colour appears, you plunge the axe head back into the water, arresting the process. The work is done. You have created not just a tool, but a perfectly tuned and highly sophisticated piece of material science. You would not survive this. Not because you are not intelligent, but because your intelligence is of a different kind. Your knowledge is abstract and theoretical. You can read a book that explains the principles of metallurgy. The blacksmith's knowledge is not in a book. It is in his hands. It is in his eyes. It is in his ears. It is a deep and intuitive and almost unconscious form of embodied knowledge, a knowledge that is built up over a lifetime of constant and often painful trial and error. You have a library of facts. He has a library of feelings, of sounds, of colours, of the subtle and secret language of the fire and the steel. And his library, in his world, is the only one that truly matters. The life of a blacksmith is a life lived in a state of almost complete physical and sensory immersion. Your days are a symphony of fire, of sweat, of the percussive roar of the hammer, and the deep, resonant hum of hot metal. But your existence is not purely a physical one. You are a craftsman, but you are also a thinker. Your mind is a different kind of forge, a place where you must hammer out solutions to complex and often unprecedented technical problems. You are the village's sole engineer, its only material scientist, and its reluctant and often unacknowledged inventor. The tools you use are not the mass-produced, standardized and reliable tools of a modern workshop. They are extensions of your own body, tools that you have made yourself, for yourself. Your hammers, your tongs, your chisels. Each one has been forged and shaped by your own hand, for your own hand. You know their weight, their balance, their temper, with an intimacy that is almost filial. You know that a pair of tongs for holding a flat bar of iron must have a different shape, a different grip, than a pair for holding a round bar. You will spend an entire day, a day that could have been spent on a paying job, simply forging a new set of tongs, a new fuller, or a new punch, a specialized tool that you will need for a specific and difficult upcoming task. This constant and unpaid labor of tool making is an invisible but absolutely essential part of your trade. And then there are the great and complex challenges that only you can solve. One day, the great bell in the village church cracks. It is a disaster. The bell is the voice of the community. It is what marks the hours of the day, what calls the people to prayer, what warns them of a fire or an approaching enemy. It is the sacred and sonic heart of their world. A new bell would have to be cast in a great and distant city at a cost that is far beyond the means of your small and impoverished village. The priest, his face a mask of despair, comes to you. He does not ask if you can fix it. He assumes you cannot. But he has come to you because you are the master of the fire and the metal, and he has nowhere else to turn. You go to the church. You examine the bell. It is a massive bronze behemoth weighing hundreds of pounds. A hairline crack runs from its lip halfway up its side. The crack is what is killing its voice, turning its once beautiful resonant dong into a dull and mournful thud. You have never repaired a bell. There are no books, no manuals to tell you how. The knowledge of the great bell founders is a closely guarded and almost sacred secret. You have only your own deep and intuitive understanding of the nature of metal. You know that you cannot simply weld the crack. The intense, localized heat of a forge weld would create stresses in the cast bronze that would cause it to shatter completely. You cannot melt it down and recast it. Your small, charcoal-fired forge is not capable of the massive, sustained heat required to melt that much bronze. You must find a new way. You spend days in your smithy, not working, but thinking. You stare into the heart of your forge, as if the answer lies in the dancing and transformative shapes of the flames. Your workshop becomes a laboratory of pure and desperate thought, and then an idea comes to you. It is an idea born from your intimate knowledge of the way metal expands and contracts with heat. You propose a radical solution to the priest. You will not try to close the crack. You will simply stop it from growing. You will use a technique you have seen used to repair the iron tires of a cartwheel. You will drill a small hole at the very end of the crack. This will distribute the stress, preventing the crack from propagating further. But how do you drill a hole in a massive bronze bell with only the tools of the 15th century? You must invent the technology. You will take one of your hardest steel punches. You will heat it, and you will quench it, and you will temper it, not to the brownish purple of an axe, but to the hard and brittle straw yellow of a razor. And then, for days, you will sit by the bell, and you will, with a small hammer and an almost superhuman patience, begin to tap, tap, tap. You are not drilling in the modern sense. You are slowly and painstakingly pulverizing a small circle of the bronze, chipping it away, grain by tiny grain. After days of this mind-numbing and incredibly precise work, you have your hole. The crack is stopped. Its voice is still a dull thud. Now comes the second, and even more radical, part of your plan. You have noticed that the crack is wider at the lip of the bell than it is further up. You realize that you might be able to change the bell's harmonic properties, to restore a semblance of its voice, by altering its shape, by relieving the stresses in the metal. You tell the priest to build a great, slow-burning fire of oak logs around the base of the bell, where it rests on the ground. For a full day, the bell is gently and evenly heated, not to a forging heat, but to a temperature where the bronze becomes just slightly more malleable, just a little less rigid. Then, at the moment of the highest heat, you and a team of the strongest men from the village, using a great suspended oak battering ram, will deliver a single, massive and perfectly calculated blow to the side of the bell opposite the crack. It is an act of incredible and almost insane audacity. If you hit it too hard, you will shatter the entire priceless bell. If you hit it too softly, nothing will happen. If you hit it in the wrong place, you might make the sound even worse. You have only one chance to get it right. You are no longer just a blacksmith. You are a physicist, you are an acoustical engineer, and you are doing it all by feel, by instinct, by a deep and almost mystical understanding of the secret and resonant soul of the metal. The men swing the great oak ram. You give the command, and the ram strikes the bell with a deep and almost mournful boom. For a moment, there is only silence. The crowd of villagers who have gathered at a safe distance holds its breath. Has it worked? Or have you just destroyed the most sacred object in their village? You let the bell cool, slowly, for a full day. And then comes the moment of truth. The priest, his face pale with anxiety, takes a small bronze hammer and he taps the lip of the bell. It is not the pure, perfect, and magnificent tone that it once was. It is a little flatter. It has a slight and almost human quaver in its voice. But it is a note, a clear and resonant and deeply beautiful musical note. It is not a thud, it is a song. A great, joyous cheer goes up from the villagers. You have done it. You have performed a miracle. You have healed the sick and broken voice of their community. In that moment, you are not the strange and feared and unclean man from the edge of the village. You are a hero, a magician, a master of the secret arts. And this is another, and perhaps the most complex, reason you would not survive. The sheer, crushing weight of this responsibility. In a world with no instruction manuals, no engineers, no outside experts to call upon, you are it. You are the sole repository of all the practical and technical knowledge in your community. When something breaks, something that is essential for the survival or the spiritual well-being of the village, they will come to you. And you will be expected, with your simple and almost magical tools of the fire and the hammer, to find a way to make it whole again. The pressure to be the constant and infallible problem solver, to be the man who can mend anything from a cooking pot to the very soul of the village, would be an unbearable burden. You are a creature of a world of specialists, of a world where, if you do not know the answer, you can simply Google it. The medieval blacksmith has no one to ask. He has only his hands, his eyes, his deep and often lonely library of embodied knowledge, and his courage. His courage to take a risk, to try something new, to stand before a priceless and broken object, and to have the audacity to believe that he, and he alone, can make it sing again. The successful healing of the great church bell elevates your status in the village, but it is a strange and uncomfortable kind of fame. You have not just demonstrated your skill, you have demonstrated your magic. The villagers now look at you with a new and more potent mixture of awe and fear. You are the man who can speak to the secret inner life of the metal, a man who can heal a broken voice with fire and a calculated blow. This new reputation brings you a different kind of work, a work that is far from the simple, honest and predictable world of plowshares and nails. It is the work of art. One day, the priest, his heart now filled with a deep and abiding respect for your skills, comes to you with a new and even more daunting commission. A wealthy patron has donated a significant sum of money for the creation of a new wrought iron screen to separate the chancel, the sacred space of the altar, from the nave where the common folk gather. It is to be a work of great beauty, a testament to the patron's piety and the village's devotion. And he has asked that you, the village smith, the man who healed the bell, be the one to create it. You are, in your heart, a pragmatist. You are a maker of tools. You understand the honest, functional beauty of a well-made axe head, the elegant, utilitarian curve of a perfectly balanced scythe. But this is a different kind of beauty. This is the beauty of pure and non-functional adornment. It is the beauty of art. And it is a world in which you are an uncomfortable and largely unwilling participant. But you cannot refuse. The commission is a great honor and a source of a significant and much-needed income that will see your family through the next hard winter. And so, you must become an artist. The priest brings you the design, drawn on a precious piece of parchment by a traveling master mason. It is a complex and beautiful and almost impossibly delicate lattice work of intertwining vines, of leaves, of stylized symbolic flowers. It is a vision of the Garden of Eden, a representation of paradise, to be rendered in the most stubborn and difficult and earthbound of all materials, iron. Your heart sinks as you look at it. This is not the clean, simple and honest geometry of a hinge or a gate latch. This is the organic, chaotic and deeply complex geometry of life itself. To create these flowing, naturalistic forms from hard, unyielding bars of iron will require a level of skill, of patience and of artistic vision that you are not sure you possess. And it is a different kind of work from any you have done before. You are no longer just a forger, you are a sculptor. You must learn a new and more delicate language of the hammer. You are not just drawing out the metal, you are coaxing it, persuading it, seducing it into these new and unnatural forms. You must create the long, flowing stems of the vines. You take a bar of iron, and with a series of light and incredibly precise hammer blows, you begin to shape it, turning it on the anvil, creating the gentle, organic curves. You use specialized tools that you must first invent and forge for yourself. Curved fullers, rounded swages, to create the soft, rounded form of the stem. Then you must create the leaves. Each one is a small and individual masterpiece of forging. You take a small piece of iron, and with a lighter hammer, you must carefully and skillfully spread the metal, thinning it, shaping the delicate, pointed tip, the serrated edges. And then, with an even smaller and more specialized chasing hammer, you must create the veins of the leaf, the fine, intricate lines that give it its sense of life, of reality. To create a single perfect leaf can take half a day of intense and eye-straining concentration, and the design requires hundreds of them. And then comes the most difficult and most magical part of all, the joinery. The leaves must be attached to the stems. The stems must be intertwined into the great flowing lattice of the screen. You cannot use simple nails or rivets. That would be a crude and ugly solution. You must use the most difficult and most seamless of all your techniques, the collared forge weld. For each join you must forge a small and perfect iron collar. You must then heat the collar, the stem and the leaf to a perfect and simultaneous welding heat. And then, in a few frantic and perfectly choreographed seconds, you must wrap the white-hot collar around the joint and, with a series of swift and precise hammer blows, you must weld the entire three-part assembly into a single and indivisible piece of metal. A single, small miscalculation in the heat, a single, clumsy hammer blow, and the entire delicate assembly will be ruined. The days of work turn to a lump of useless and unforgiving slag. This is another and more profound reason you would not survive. The sheer, obsessive and almost inhuman level of patience, of precision and of artistic vision required for this work is beyond you. Your modern world is one of mass production, of interchangeable parts, of a deep and often unacknowledged separation between the artist, the designer and the fabricator. You are accustomed to following a blueprint, to executing a plan that has been created by someone else. The medieval blacksmith, when he is working as an artist, must be all of these things at once. He must be the designer, the engineer, and the fabricator. He must hold the entire, complex vision of the final piece in his mind, even as he is focused on the single, small, and infinitesimally precise detail of a single hammer blow on a single, white-hot leaf. He is not just making an object, he is in a deep, and often frustrating, and ultimately, a profoundly creative dialogue with his material. He is a master of a kind of holistic and embodied creativity that your own specialized and fragmented world has almost completely lost. The work takes an entire year. It is a year of obsession. It is a year of small and heartbreaking failures and of quiet and deeply satisfying triumphs. Your smithy is no longer just a place of repair. It has become an artist's studio. The floor is littered, not with broken tools, but with the discarded and imperfect attempts at a perfect iron leaf. Your mind is no longer just filled with the practical concerns of the village. It is filled with the aesthetic problems of line, of form, of the way a vine should curve to express a sense of life, of the way a flower should open to express a sense of divine praise. During this year, you change. The work changes you. The constant and intense focus on the creation of beauty begins to soften the hard and pragmatic shell of your own soul. You begin to see the world differently. You look at a real vine growing on the side of your house, and you see not just a plant, but a problem of form, of line, of a deep and organic geometry that you must now try to understand and to replicate. You are not just looking at the world, you are seeing it with a new and more intense and more artistic clarity. Finally, the great screen is finished. It is installed in the church. It is a masterpiece. It is a symphony of iron, a forest of metal, that is both incredibly strong and impossibly delicate. It is a thing of profound and enduring beauty. The villagers come to see it. They stand before it in a state of hushed and reverent awe. They do not just see a beautiful object, they see a story. They see their own collective faith, their own deepest beliefs, made manifest in the hard and eternal form of the iron. And they look at you differently. You are no longer just the useful and slightly feared village mechanic. You are no longer just the cunning man who can cure a sick horse. You are an artist. You are a man who can, with his own rough and calloused hands, create a thing of true and divine and almost heartbreaking beauty. You have, in their eyes, become a different kind of magician. Not a magician of charms and superstitions, but a magician of pure and undeniable creation. But this new status is also a new kind of isolation. You have created a thing that is far beyond the comprehension of the very people you have created it for. You have poured a year of your life, a year of your soul, into the creation of this object. And you know that no one, not even the priest, not even the Lord, can ever truly understand the deep and intimate and often painful relationship you have with it. They see the finished product. You see the 1,000 small and invisible decisions, the 100 heartbreaking failures, the single, perfect and triumphant hammer blow that finally brought a difficult curve to life. You are an artist. And the artist, in any age, is a man who is ultimately and profoundly alone. He is alone with his vision. He is alone with his material. And he is alone with the quiet and deeply personal and ultimately incommunicable knowledge of the true and hidden story of his own magnificent and often painful creation. You have created a thing that connects your community more deeply to their God, and in doing so, you have made yourself and your own secret and creative soul even more of an island. The work has brought you a new kind of respect, but it has also brought you a new and even more profound kind of loneliness. The completion of the great church screen transforms your reputation, not just within your own small, isolated village, but in the wider world beyond. The story of the magnificent ironwork and of the humble village smith who created it begins to travel. It is carried by the pilgrims who pass through your village, by the merchants who trade in your local market, by the priests who gather for their diocesan meetings. Your name, which was once known only in the context of a few surrounding parishes, begins to acquire a faint but discernible luster. This new fame brings a new and deeply unsettling set of challenges and opportunities. One day, a messenger arrives. He is a man in the livery of a great and powerful earl whose vast estates lie half a country away. The earl has heard the stories of your skill. He is building a new great hall in his primary castle, and he requires a master smith to forge the massive and highly ornate strap hinges and the complex and beautiful lockwork for his great oak doors. He has summoned you. The summons is not a request, it is a command, but it is also a great and terrifying opportunity. To work for a man of such power and wealth would be to elevate your status and your fortune to a level you had never dreamed of. It is a chance to escape the endless, grinding cycle of agricultural repair work to become a true and respected master artisan. But to accept is to leave your world. It is to abandon the forge that your father and his father before him worked in. It is to leave the community that you know, the network of obligations and understandings that, for all its limitations, has been the bedrock of your entire life. It means embarking on a long and deeply dangerous journey through a world that is filled with perils for any traveller, but especially for a man like you. You are a man of some, but not great, means. You will travel not with a retinue of armed guards, but on a single, sturdy mule, your precious and irreplaceable tools packed in leather bags. The roads of your world are not the safe and well-policed highways of a later age. They are little more than muddy, rutted tracks, and they are infested with dangers. There are the simple and brutal dangers of the brigands, the desperate and landless, men who live by robbing and killing travellers in the deep and unpeopled forests between the towns. But there are also the more complex and more official dangers. Every petty lord whose lands you must cross will demand a toll, a tax for the privilege of using his poorly maintained roads and his rickety bridges. To argue is to risk having your goods, your tools, your very mule confiscated. You must learn the art of the humble bow, the respectful address, the judicious and often infuriating payment of a dozen different and often arbitrary local taxes. And then there is the danger of the towns themselves. You are a stranger, an outsider. You do not know the local customs. You do not know the local power structures. A careless word in a tavern, a dispute with a local merchant over the price of a loaf of bread, can easily escalate into a brawl or a charge before a local magistrate who will always favour the local man over the foreigner. You would not last a day on this journey. Your modern mind, which is accustomed to the rule of law, to the idea of a single and consistent set of rules, would be driven to a state of constant and furious anxiety by the chaotic and deeply corrupt and utterly unpredictable nature of medieval travel. You would be robbed or cheated or imprisoned before you had travelled 20 miles. But you, the medieval blacksmith, understand this world. You know how to make yourself small. You know how to be watchful. You know when to be humble and when to show a flash of a hard and confident strength. And so you accept the Earl's commission. You leave your smithy in the capable hands of your son and your apprentice, and you begin your great journey. The journey is a profound education. You see, for the first time, the true scale and diversity of your own country. You see the great and bustling trading cities, their ports filled with ships from distant lands. You see the vast and silent and deeply spiritual landscapes of the great monasteries, their lands cultivated with a skill and an efficiency that your own small village can only dream of. You see the deep and ancient forests, and you feel the raw and untamed and deeply pagan power that still resides there, a power that the new and Christian world has not yet been able to completely vanquish. You finally arrive at the Earl's castle. It is a world of almost unimaginable power and wealth. It is a fortress of cold grey stone, a man-made mountain designed for war. And within its walls, you are a craftsman, but you are also a servant. You are given a small, dark and smoky smithy in the outer bailey of the castle. You are given your rations of food and ale, and you are given your orders. Your work here is different. You are no longer your own master. You are part of a great and complex team of craftsmen, masons, carpenters, weavers, all working on the Earl's great project. And you are, for the first time, in direct competition with other blacksmiths. The Earl has summoned not just you, but other masters from other regions, each with their own unique skills and their own secret traditions. The world of the castle smithy is a world of fierce and often unspoken professional rivalry. You watch the other smiths. You see a man from the north whose skill in forging intricate and beautiful lock mechanisms is far greater than your own. You see a man from the west who has a secret and faster method for making high-quality steel. You are no longer the undisputed master of your craft. You are just one of many, and you must learn and adapt and even steal the secrets of your rivals if you are to maintain your own position, your own prestige, your own value in the eyes of your new and powerful patron. And you must now confront the reality of the guild. In the cities, the craft of the blacksmith is a tightly controlled and highly regulated monopoly. The guild sets the prices. The guild sets the standards of quality, and the guild determines who is and who is not allowed to practice the craft within the city walls. You are not a member of the local guild. You are a foreigner, a blackleg. And the local, city-based smiths see you not as a respected colleague, but as a threat. You are working in their territory. You are, in their eyes, stealing their work. They cannot attack you directly. You are under the protection of the Earl. But they can, and they do, make your life difficult. The merchants who supply the charcoal, who are themselves members of a guild, will mysteriously be out of stock when you try to buy from them. The traders who bring the iron from the coast will quote you a price that is twice what they quote to a local, guild-approved smith. You are an outsider, and the powerful and deeply conservative and often xenophobic world of the urban guilds is closing its ranks against you. You would not survive this. Your modern world is built on the idea of a free market, of competition, of the right of an individual to practice their trade wherever they wish. You would be enraged by the injustice, the protectionism, the sheer and blatant unfairness of the guild system. You would try to fight it. You would appeal to the law, and you would be crushed. But you, the medieval blacksmith, understand this world. You understand that the world is not fair. You understand that it is a world of insiders and outsiders, of powerful and protected monopolies. And so, you do not fight the system. You find a way to work within it. You use the Earl's influence to secure your own private supply of charcoal. You pay the inflated price for the iron, and you make up for the cost by working longer and harder and more efficiently than your rivals. You learn to be a cunning and pragmatic and deeply resilient businessman, as well as a master craftsman. Your work on the great doors of the hall is a triumph. The hinges are a masterpiece of the smith's art, great, sprawling iron vines that are both incredibly strong and breathtakingly beautiful. The lock is a marvel of complex and secret engineering, a puzzle of wards and levers that only you and the Earl and God know the secret to. The Earl is pleased. He pays you handsomely, a purse of silver coins that is a fortune, a treasure that will secure the future of your family for a generation. And he makes you an offer. He asks you to stay. To become his personal and permanent master smith, to live here in the safety and the comfort of the castle for the rest of your life. It is a moment of ultimate and life-changing choice. It is the dream of every craftsman, the dream of a secure and stable and powerful patronage, the dream of escaping the endless and grinding and precarious uncertainty of the village. You look at the great stone walls of the castle. You look at the well-fed and well-armed guards. You look at the promise of a life of safety, of respect, of a guaranteed and comfortable income. And you look at the face of the Earl, and you see in his eyes not the respect of a patron for a master artist, but the cool and appraising gaze of an owner for a valuable and useful piece of property. You realize that if you stay, you will not be a master, you will be a servant. A well-fed and well-housed and well-paid servant, but a servant nonetheless. Your time will not be your own. Your work will not be your own. You will be a beautiful and gilded bird in a very strong and very comfortable cage. You think of your own, small and smoky and dirty smithy back in your village. You think of the freedom to be your own master, the freedom to work on a simple and honest ploughshare, the freedom to fail and to learn and to be a part of a real and messy and deeply human community. You make your choice. You thank the Earl for his magnificent offer, and you tell him that you must return to your own people. You must go home. You have chosen the hard and uncertain and precarious path of freedom over the safe and comfortable and soul-crushing path of servitude. It is a choice that is both incredibly foolish and incredibly and beautifully human. And it is a choice that will define the rest of your long and weary and ultimately your own life. The journey home is a different kind of pilgrimage. You are not the same man who left your village a year ago. You left as a skilled but simple village craftsman. You are returning as a master, a man who has worked for one of the great lords of the land, a man whose reputation is now forged in a far hotter and more prestigious fire. The heavy purse of silver coins, which you have hidden with a desperate and almost paranoid care in a false bottom of your charcoal sack, is a tangible proof of your success. It is a weight that is both a comfort and a constant gnawing source of anxiety. It is the price of your art, and it is also the price on your head for every desperate brigand who might be lurking in the deep and unpeopled shadows of the forest. As you travel, you see the world with new and more experienced eyes. The petty tolls of the local lords, which once seemed so infuriating, now seem merely a predictable and manageable part of the landscape. The chaotic and often threatening life of the towns and the taverns no longer feels so alien. You have stood in the presence of real and absolute power, and the small and blustering authority of a town reeve or a guild master no longer holds the same terror for you. You have been tested in a greater fire, and you have not been broken. You have, in a way that is almost imperceptible to you, grown. You finally crest the last familiar hill, and you see it. Your own small village, nestled in the curve of the river, a plume of wood smoke rising from each thatched roof. It is a sight that is so familiar, so deeply and intimately known, that it brings a sharp and unexpected ache to your chest. It is not a grand or a beautiful or a powerful place. It is poor and it is small, and it is filled with people you have known your entire life. And you realize, with a profound and almost overwhelming sense of certainty, that it is the only place in the world you truly belong. It is home. Your return is a quiet and momentous event. Your son, who has been managing the smithy in your absence, greets you not as a father, but as a master returning. He has kept the forge alive. He has mended the tools. He has served the needs of the village. And he has, in the process, become a smith in his own right. You look at his hands, at the new and hard-won calluses, but the tracery of small white burn scars, and you feel a surge of a deep and quiet and almost painful pride. The chain has not been broken. You do not speak to your son of the great and terrible choice you made, the offer you refused from the Earl. To do so would be to burden him with the knowledge of a life he might have had, a life of comfort, of safety, of gilded servitude. Instead, you simply hand him a small but significant portion of your earnings. You tell him to buy his wife a new, warm cloak for the winter. It is an act of acknowledgement, an act that says, you are a man now, you are a provider, and you have done well. You pick up your old, familiar, and perfectly balanced hammer. You stand before your own scarred and ancient anvil, and you return to the simple and honest and deeply satisfying rhythm of the village smith. You repair the broken ploughshares. You forge the endless and necessary nails. You shoe the farmer's horses. And you find that the work is different now. Or rather, you are different. The year of working on the great and beautiful church screen and the year of working on the Earl's magnificent and complex lockwork has changed you. Your hands are more skillful. Your eye is more certain. Your understanding of the metal is deeper, more intuitive. You are no longer just a craftsman, you are a master. And you bring this new and hard-won mastery to the simple, everyday objects of your village. The new hinges you forge for the church door are no longer just simple, functional straps of iron. They have a new and subtle and beautiful elegance of form. The simple iron cross you forge for a new grave in the churchyard has a grace, a perfection of line that it would not have had before. You are no longer just serving the needs of your community. You are enriching it. You are, in your own, quiet and almost invisible way, bringing a small piece of the great and beautiful world you have seen back to your own, small and isolated, home. You are transforming your cage into a work of art. You grow old. The years pass now with the gentle and predictable rhythm of the seasons. Your son takes over the heavy and demanding work of the forge. You are now the old man, the patriarch, the one who sits in a chair by the warmth of the fire, your hands now too gnarled and too stiff for the fine work, resting in your lap. You are no longer the village's mechanic. You have become its memory. The young apprentices, your grandchildren, will come to you with a difficult problem, a strange and stubborn piece of iron that will not weld, a complex tool that has broken in a mysterious way, and you will look at the problem, and you will reach into the vast and silent library of your own embodied experience, and you will tell them the story of a similar problem you faced 40 years ago. You will tell them to change the angle of the heat, to use a different kind of flux, to listen for a different sound from the hammer. You have become the oral tradition of your craft. You are the book that has never been written. And you understand, in the long and peaceful quiet of your old age, that this is your true and final legacy. The quiet and patient and loving transmission of a deep and hard-won and beautiful knowledge from one generation to the next. One evening, in the deep of winter, you are sitting by the fire in your small house. The smithy next door is quiet, the fire banked for the night. Your son and his family are asleep. You are alone in the warm and companionable darkness. and you think of your long and difficult and often painful life. You think of the endless and grinding labour. You think of the burns, the deafness, the constant and aching pain in your bones. You think of the poverty, the uncertainty, the fear. You think of the social isolation, of the strange and often terrible and contradictory roles you were forced to play. Was it a good life? It was not a happy life, in the way a modern person would understand happiness. It was not a comfortable life. It was not a safe life, but it was a life of profound and undeniable meaning. You were a creator. You were a maker. You took the dead and stubborn and chaotic raw material of the earth, and with your own human hands and with the sacred and transformative power of the fire, you gave it form and purpose and a kind of beauty. You were a vital and necessary and deeply respected part of a real and human community. You were the man who made the world work. As you finally close your eyes, the last sound you hear is not the ringing in your own damaged ears. It is the imagined and deeply satisfying and beautiful sound of a perfectly struck piece of steel on a solid and unyielding anvil. It is the sound of your life. It is the sound of your art. It is the sound of a legacy that has been hammered out, not in words, but in the honest and enduring and beautiful reality of the iron itself. You have not just survived your life. You have forged it. And now, at the end of it all, you are not just a blacksmith. You are a masterpiece, a work that has been heated and hammered and tempered in the long and difficult and ultimately the sacred forge of a human life. The fire is out.